James.
Daniel?
Yes.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
My faith teaches me to love my neighbor as myself. In fact, all the major world religions teach something similar, that we should treat others as we want to be treated, the golden rule. I think all of these ancient wisdom traditions are hitting on the same truth, which is that we're interconnected, that what impacts any of us directly impacts all of us indirectly. We are a social species. We rise and fall together. And I think that's particularly true in healthcare and food assistance, because the Republicans in DC are trying to raise premiums on some Americans. That will end up raising premiums on all of us. Right now, they're cutting food assistance for hungry kids and working parents. That's going to end up raising grocery prices for all of us. And so they may think that they're just attacking some Americans, but in fact, they're attacking all Americans.
I want to focus on the religious aspect because
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Have a very Christian background.
Yeah.
But if you look at major religions, including Christianity, it is not a focus on a political system. It's a focus on individual responsibility. And when the political system takes away the individual responsibility and says, don't worry, the government's going to take care of you, you are absolutely going to catch people who need that. And it's a hand up and it helps them. But you're also going to take away from the individual responsibility, which is needed to get out of those situations.
I really hate the aspect of like individual responsibility, even though I 100% agree. Like I 1,000% agree to the concept. What I hate about the conversation is that I don't believe it's taking in good faith. I don't believe that this is a conversation really meant to uplift individuals as is. What ways are you trying to uplift people who are struggling? When it comes down to individual responsibility, it does take a level of resources and knowledge to maximize your potential to improve your lifestyle and be as just good as possible in not only the mental sense and the moral sense, but also the physical sense, right? So we realize that is the case. Everybody doesn't have the same level of resources and opportunity to make the optimized versions of themselves. And that's when government has to be involved to create that opportunity for everybody to express the privileges of liberty and the pursuit of happiness. I don't know why people don't realize that this is the case. And they act like anybody can achieve success when other people have more money, more wealth, better living environment, better people, better community around them compared to others. At that point, in order to equal the playing field, that's what the government is for. So unless your quota is if you were born in a circumstance where you can't live your life as good as everybody else, then SOL, you're shit out of luck. You can go die in a ditch. That is my perception of people who constantly say this, because I don't think they're saying this to improve their lifestyle. I think they're saying this just so they don't have to pay for someone else's lifestyle and to help them. They just don't want to help others. That's what's actually going on.
So when you talk about food stamps and healthcare and helping, how do you balance that? Because I haven't heard a good democratic argument of, great, let's help people, but how are you? There are nasty people. There are welfare queens. There are nasty people who take advantage of the system and take away from those who earned it, take away from those who need it. So how are you going to take that into account? How are you going to make sure we cover that risk as well?
The biggest welfare queens in this country are the giant corporations that don't pay a penny in federal taxes. The biggest welfare queens are the CEOs who get a tax deduction for flying on a private jet. It's not hungry kids. It's not working parents who work multiple jobs to provide for their families. I agree with you that we need individual responsibility. And I don't want to create a culture of dependency. I want a hand up and not a handout. You know, I believe that you don't give a man to fish, you teach a man to fish. But if you're going to take your friend out on a boat for the day to teach him how to fish, you want to make sure he had breakfast that morning. You want to make sure he's not sick, because that allows him to learn how to fish. Again, I was a public school teacher, so I saw how when kids showed up hungry, they couldn't learn that day. Even my brightest students, even my hardest working students couldn't succeed, couldn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they didn't have boots. That's what I'm trying to fix in this country. We don't want dependency. We want to reward hard work. And I think that should apply to those billionaires, not just working people.
I'm going to push back.
Yeah,
so
please.
I agree with a lot of what you said.
Yeah.
But the
Wow, non-toxic, good faith conversation. It's crazy.
issue is how do you prevent people from taking advantage of the system? Because,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say that, like, we would agree
Sure.
that in any kind of welfare system or any kind of aid, you have a population of people who need it, who use it to better themselves and better those around you. You also have a population of those who abuse it. And because it's there, it's harmful.
So again, this argument is also just so nasty. Get rid of all of it because some people take advantage of it. That every system has a way to take advantage of it. Every single system. This is what I want to ask the people who are right wing. Should we get rid of Catholicism, considering there's Catholic priests that are fondling and taking advantage of little boys and girls? There's a system where one guy has so much power and influence. He can coerce people to allow private meetings with kids and then do disgusting stuff with them. Should we get rid of this practice in America because some people take advantage of the system? Genuine question. Because this whole idea that some people take advantage of it, so get rid of all of it. Well, apply that all across the board. Bad actors that take advantage of a practice, apply that across the board. Apply that to mass shootings. Apply that to PDF Catholic priests. Apply that to corrupt billionaires. Apply that across the board then. I'll be able to take you much more seriously if you do. Otherwise, it sounds hollow.
To them because they're uninspired to live up to their potential, and it's harmful to everyone else because they're a leech on society. And I think generally we would disagree on the percentage of how much is this group and how much is that group. That's okay, but how do we prevent this group from taking advantage, not only of those of us who are hardworking and make a good amount of money, but those that really need the aid, who get a bad reputation because of these shitheads over here?
So this has actually been studied, and the fraud rates for SNAP, the food assistance program, and for Medicaid are shockingly low. And what happens here is the corporate media, they try to pick out some rare case and they blow it up, they sensationalize it because they want to discredit these programs, because they don't want tax dollars going to help feed hungry kids. They want tax dollars going to billionaires that own the media so that they can get even more wealth. I wanted to go back to something you said, because we're both people of faith, both Christians, it sounds like. I completely agree with you that everyone has a personal moral responsibility to do right, to do good, to better themselves. But I'll also just say we also have a responsibility to our neighbors, to our community. And in fact, so much of our tradition comes out of the Jewish tradition, which is all about a covenant, a community of people, not singular individuals, but us as a community, us as a covenant. Jesus didn't tell us to love our immediate family members. Jesus didn't tell us to love our close friends. Those probably would have been easier commandments to follow. He told us to love our neighbors. And then he specifically went further and defined neighbor as someone who's very different from us. And that is an inherently a public thing. Loving your neighbors is something you do out in public. It's why my faith motivates me to do public service, first as a public school teacher, now as a public official. And so I just want to hold both of those two things together, because there's absolutely a role for individual responsibility and individual choices, but there's also responsibility to others and to the community. Both those things can be true at the same time.
All right. You know what Jubilee should do? Jubilee should ask at least one person, why are you raising the red flag? I think that puts more accountability. So for the people who go like, oh, I just don't want this guy to get his point across, expose him.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please
You did a great
return to your
job.
seat.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you. Hey, Stefan. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. On its face, what you're saying, cuts to healthcare, cuts to food assistance, her solvis, sounds good. But if you look at it at the inverse, increases to healthcare and increases to food assistance doesn't help all of us. And the reason why is we have a bloated healthcare system where a lot of the money that goes into it gets accrued to the intermediaries, the companies delivering these services, the consulting class. A lot of fraud happens. I mean, we have a current member of the Senate, not in Texas, but in the US, who defrauded millions of people out of Medicare benefits and the like. So one of the things that I worry about.
Okay.
Is when we're talking about restoring the money that's been cut, is how is it going to be used effectively? So I'm not against having more healthcare to more people. What I'm against is that money being used inappropriately. And you talk about the wealthy, the top versus bottom. This is a system that actually makes more people poor, and the fewer that are really richer, because it gives more opportunities for money to be sucked out of the system and accrued into fewer hands. So we're not necessarily serving more people. So that's why I hesitate to agree that
food assistance and healthcare makes more people poor. That's just objectively not true. That's just not a factual reality. But I agree that there is a lot of concern and that it's being used inappropriately. Now, that doesn't mean you cut it, because the people that you said you want to help are suffering from the lack of help. So how are you going to help them by cutting it? I don't think that's what he's saying, but I do think that's something important to point out.
Really cutting healthcare, cutting food assistance is necessarily hurting all of us. Maybe it's probably hurting the rich more than it is hurting most of us.
Well, you're preaching to the choir. I think we've got to transform this healthcare system from the bottom up. Most other countries around the world have figured
saying food assistance and like how long ago. I think I know what he's talking about, so I'm not gonna be nasty to him. So I
figured out how to provide quality healthcare at lower costs for more people. We're the only rich country that hasn't figured this out, because we have giant health insurance companies leeching the life out of our healthcare system. And so I absolutely agree with you. If we're cutting some of those profit margins for these giant healthcare companies, I'm all for it. But that's not what's being proposed in Washington right now. That big ugly bill is going to kick millions of Texans off their healthcare. Right now, this government shutdown is all about the Republicans trying to raise premiums on working people. Those folks who can no longer afford to pay those higher premiums, they're going to drop their health insurance. Those folks are no longer going to get their screenings. They're no longer going to get their checkups. They're going to wait. Things are going to get worse. They're going to get sicker. And then where will they go? To the emergency room. And who pays for that? Me and you. It's going to raise our property taxes here in Texas. For indigent care at the county level, we all pay for that. And it is so much more expensive on the back end than it is on the front end. We end up saving money if we invest in preventative care on the front end. And so that's my point with this claim, is that we're all interconnected. What hurts some of us ends up hurting all of us. And when we're all better off, we're all better off. Same with the food assistance cuts.
He's making some excellent points right now that I think it's irrefutable. I don't really need to say much. He is completely correct on his analysis of what is going on and what MAGA is trying to do.
That benefits for hungry kids and working parents. It disrupts the entire supply chain in our economy, from ranchers and farmers here in Texas to distributors and truck drivers to grocery stores like H-E-B. And when supply goes down, prices go up. So because the Republicans in DC are cutting food assistance for poor folks, it's now going to make grocery store prices even more expensive for everybody. So if we make the decision to invest in our neighbors
Bro, he articulated this perfectly. He said exactly what MAGA is doing and how terrible it is. And then he rerouted it, which is something that I low-key want to start implementing in how I'm explaining things to people. He rerouted it to make it personal to people. It's unfortunate that people don't care about the well-beings of others. That's just the truth. But if we don't help them in this way, you're going to have to pay more at the end of the day, and it's going to make the economy worse. So if you don't want to pay more, even if you don't care about their well-being, we probably want better care. I think that's a very good way to articulate this.
Love our neighbors through good public policy. even when we're open to reform and fixing these broken systems, it's actually going to make us all healthier. It's going to make us all safer. It's going to make us all richer.
I mean, that sounds really good. The only thing that I'm sort of hearing coming from your answer is it's an acceptable cost or benefit to, give more money to the intermediaries if it's giving more people healthcare. And that's where I continue to sort of
So he didn't listen. He didn't understand what he was saying. It's so frustrating with dealing with these people, bro. It's like, are you listening to me? Did you hear what came out of my mouth? It's so frustrating, bro. He just didn't listen.
Let me give you a solution that could address this. I'm for a public option. I'm for allowing anyone in the state of Texas, anyone in America, to sign up for Medicare, to be able to access high quality, low cost healthcare. I think when we do that, you're going to see folks who are in terrible healthcare plans flee and join this public option. It creates competition in the market. It creates choice. It creates opportunities for people to decide what's best for themselves and their families. So I am not satisfied with this healthcare system. Please do not misunderstand me. We need transformational change when it comes to healthcare in this country, because I believe healthcare is a human right. And it shouldn't depend on how much money you make or how much money your parents make. We all are entitled to high quality, low cost, affordable healthcare.
Why instead of reform, not just completely dismantle and start from scratch? Because to me, cutting or reforming has not worked in the last 20, 30, 40 years. There's been incremental changes around the corners, and none of that has worked. To me,
he said transformational reform. Did you listen to him? Oh my God, this guy's not listening, and I'm done. I'm done, bro. I just can't. I can't with these people. Let's move on to the next one.
Claim is that immigrants make America stronger and richer. Hi, Jade.
Yes, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Let me just lay out what I mean by this, because I know it sounds a little controversial. I'm eighth generation Texan. My family's been here since it was Mexico. My mom actually grew up in Laredo, right on the Texas-Mexico border. I feel like we Texans understand immigration more than people outside of Texas because we live with it every day, the benefits and the challenges. The more I travel the state, the more I've realized that most Texans are in the same spot on this issue. The metaphor I've used is that our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front and a lock on the door. We can both welcome the stranger, welcome immigrants who want to contribute to this economy, who want to live the American dream, who want to make us stronger and richer, and we can keep people out who mean to do us harm. I will say I think not enough Democrats have been willing to say. Joe Biden failed us on our southern border. I remember talking to my colleagues in the Texas legislature who represent border communities. They told me about the utter chaos on the border. And that failure by Joe Biden paved the way for Donald Trump to come in with masked men in unmarked vehicles, secret police, tearing parents from their children, kidnapping people off the street. I think both parties have failed us on.
Oh, man. If you want to say Joe Biden failed, I guess it was tough because he was dealing with COVID, and after COVID was done, what happened as a response is Donald Trump's Title 42, I believe, that was over, and then all those people who could not come in during COVID all just fucking bum rushed the border. I think it's fair to say that knowing that that was the reality, you should have been you should have been more aggressive in securing it. That's probably fair to say. He did a lot of deportations. Let's be very clear about that. He didn't just allow people to come in. That's just wasn't the case. But knowing that there's going to be a lot of people trying to get in, you gotta make it more stringent. It's unfair, but you got to, because this is a response to Donald Trump's Title 42 executive order, I believe.
This issue, I think we all should come together and finally pass comprehensive immigration reform, more immigration judges, more border patrol, modernize our ports of entry where most of the fentanyl gets in. reform our asylum system, relieve the visa backlog. We should finally fix this problem instead of grandstanding on it.
I completely agree with you on that. But what I disagree with is the claim that immigrants as a whole are making America stronger. I think there is a lot of nuance that is not added to that claim. I think that there are a lot of immigrants, and immigrants are needed in this country. A lot of these immigrants are the ones that are driving America forward. I also think that there are a lot of immigrants who, America is supposed to be a melting pot. America is supposed to have people from everywhere come together.
I agree.
And there's this concept of assimilation where there should be partial assimilation. You don't, no one should be forced to completely assimilate and change who they are and change their.
Bro, you were spitting. You're doing some great talk. Oh, that butt's gonna hurt though. That butt is gonna hurt, buddy.
Beliefs to fit in. But at the same time, whenever we have people coming to this country and then going out on the streets yelling that they hate the country, it's counterintuitive.
Oh, I don't like that either.
And it really does hurt America as a whole.
Do you know any undocumented immigrants?
No, I do not.
I agree with what he said. The majority of immigrants don't agree to that. So don't let a small percentage of people who are, I don't know how you're going to come in this country and hate this country, determine your opinion of all immigrants. That's the problem.
When I was a teacher on the west side of San Antonio, I taught a lot of students who were undocumented. And I don't want to stereotype, but those students tended to be the most patriotic, the hardest working students that I had in the classroom. They understood something about this country that even I, as a native-born American, often take for granted. They believed that this was a land of opportunity, and they were ready to do whatever it took to make it in this country. And that's what generations of Italian and Irish immigrants did in this country. And I think if we welcome folks who want to contribute, who want to be Americans, it's going to make us stronger and richer because it already has.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Great job. Yeah, so nice to meet you.
Great conversation. Oh my God, good conversation. It's so rare. It's so rare. Oh my God.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? So I would argue that as someone who has my dad's side, they come from immigrants and, things like that. Yeah. I'm originally from Florida, so yeah, I'm African and Black, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm in favor of stricter borders, mainly because when we have so many immigrants now that are just coming like as a flock and, from everywhere, from India, from Japan, however you want to put it. I think what's happening now is that like just how the guy who won for New York, what's his name?
Mamdani.
Yes. I think that the people, when there's too many immigrants coming, they think that they know America better than the originators or people that are born here generationally.
Bro, don't fail me, bro. Don't say some bullshit. Don't say some bullshit. Don't make this an anti-Muslim shit. Don't. I don't. Please don't disappoint me.
And it causes a conflict on government. Like Ramazani, I don't know how to say his name, the Indian guy, who was born here, right? Mm-hmm. And now he's a part of the government. And I think that kind of plays a part in religion, government, what we believe in, because a lot of them may not be Christian, maybe Buddhist, and they may just have a different ideology and may not like what you.
What the fuck are you saying, bro? These people should not be a part of the government if they believe in something different.
See for us, they may not see for us, and they may try to change it. Same way how Indians come over and get H1B.
This guy doesn't like Indians. I think this guy just doesn't like Indians. I think that's really the crux of this conversation.
Visas or whatever, and they bond together, make money together, and don't want any other race, culture working with them as a whole. So that's why I believe overall,
what is this narrative?
Stricter borders should be put in place and a stricter citizenship process, because it's not the same as what it used to be. It used to be a lot easier, but now it's getting a lot harder, which is a good thing, because
I agree that we need
too many Indians
more secure borders. We're not disagreeing on that. Mm-hmm. What I am saying is that America as a melting pot is what makes us so special as a country, but it's also what makes us richer and stronger as a country.
Right.
Have you ever heard the claim that Social Security is going to go bankrupt?
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah. Do you know why Social Security isn't bankrupt today?
Because of immigrants.
Because of immigrants.
All right.
Undocumented people.
Pause. So sorry. You've been voted out.
Wow. He was about to cook. He was about to fillet.
Return to your seat.
So nice to see you. Yeah, great job.
Oh man, I like this. This is good. This is some good conversation.
Hey, like, so we just got cut off.
Yes.
Have you heard the claim that Social Security is going to go
times.
bankrupt?
Yes.
And do you know why Social Security is not bankrupt today?
Nope.
Oh, the James going right, bro. I'm finishing my point. Oh man, James, you're getting a little believer out of me. You're getting a little believer out of me, my boy. Come on.
So it's immigrants that are keeping Social Security solvent. Undocumented people pay into Social Security through their I-10 numbers, and they don't take any benefits in return.
Right.
So they single-handedly, as a community in the shadows, are keeping this system of ours solvent. 5% of the entire armed forces are immigrants. These are people who can't even vote, but they are willing to lay down their lives for this country. And we have 7 million. We have 7 million jobs that still need to be filled.
Right.
We have more jobs than there are workers in this country. And so my argument here, this claim that I'm making, is that by welcoming immigrants who want to contribute, who want to build their own American dream, they actually help benefit all of us and the entire economy.
I would agree with that, but I think this conversation is going in a extremely dangerous direction.
Okay.
100%. And I'll tell you why. So
Oh, please don't. Not another brother failing me. Please don't fail me, brother. Please.
it's really easy to identify a problem.
Yeah.
But what's the solution? Let's talk about immigration. And I would agree.
Yeah.
They do make this country better. And I agree that huge welcome doormat and then locking the door.
Yep.
But okay, what's the process of people actually getting to the door in the first place?
Yeah.
What's going to be deemed fair? What's going to be deemed unfair?
Yep.
That's where that's what's going to, because any
Yes.
politician can say, yes, immigrants, good. Poor people should have money. It's like that. Okay, cool. But like, what does that process look like?
Well, and I want to talk about the specific solutions, but I do just want to
Yes.
acknowledge that both parties are not actually talking about welcoming immigrants and securing the border.
Right.
So I think the problem here is we don't have candidates or elected officials who are speaking to the giant middle ground where most Texans and most Americans are. Most
Right.
people are pro-immigrant. And
I will say this. I do think Democrats moving forward, just make it clear. You want the borders to be more protected, more resources, make it easy. Just do what James Talarico is saying, basically. I agree. Just do what he's
pro-security. And so am I. To answer your question about
Yeah.
what would comprehensive reform look like?
Yes.
A lot of people say immigrants should come here the right way. I agree. The problem is there's not really a right way anymore. There's not even a line that moves at any real pace. There are people who have applied to be here who have waited 20, 30 years. Some people have died before they got a response back. That's not a line.
Yo, James, you need to stop cooking, bro. I might have to start, locking in and go like, hey, James, you my boy. So let's lock in, boy. Hey, man, you become the governor. I might even need to move to Texas, my boy. Keep on cooking.
If we want a real line, it has to be a fast-moving line.
I think he's running for Senate.
We've got to
Not
prioritize
governor,
people
but
who are going to fill the jobs that need to be filled.
Okay.
And we want to prioritize people who are actually claiming asylum and who need safety.
Okay.
Those are the groups in my mind that need to be prioritized. But we're never going to be able to process those folks unless we have enough immigration judges, unless we have enough border patrol, unless we modernize the ports of entry. 93% of the fentanyl that comes into this country comes through the ports of entry. It doesn't come over the Rio Grande.
Right.
It comes through the ports. And we don't have the technology or the manpower to detect that fentanyl. So those are the things we have to do. Yeah, please.
Quick, because like I said, this is where it gets really dangerous because that's what we can blow over. Okay, we've identified.
Okay, you said that twice. Where does it become dangerous? Where is it? Let me see it. Where does it become dangerous?
The problem. The problem is there's not a quote unquote right process. But at that same time, there needs to be some process.
Yeah.
So with the line, what does that process look like? Knowing that there's not a right and a quote unquote right, like what? Okay, so what's the line going to be?
And a lot of the problem is manpower, right? We don't have enough folks in this system who are doing this work. The current administration has grown the size of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, except It's not people doing immigration and customs enforcement. It is a secret police force that is terrorizing communities. In North Texas, there was a mom and dad, the Vargases. They own a dry cleaners here in Dallas. They're beloved by their customers, by their neighbors. They were dropping their daughter off at Texas Tech University, one of the best universities in the state of Texas. They were on their way back from dropping her off at school. I stopped them, detained them. They are still in a detention center. I do not want my law enforcement or my immigration enforcement officials focused on the Vargases. I want them focused on murderers and rapists and gang members, people who mean to do us harm. When we devote law enforcement resources to going after the Vargases, it makes us all less safe. So I'm just asking for sanity in the system.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please
Great job,
return to your
Lisa.
seat.
Yeah.
Insane right now. I'm glazing. I'm getting that good glaze, that Cinnabon glaze. I want a Cinnabon, actually.
Hi, Tyler. Good to see you. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, you told a really horrible story. That's a very sad story.
Yeah.
But also they're undocumented. So this isn't.
But yeah, they are undocumented. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm guessing he's MAGA. Oh, let's go. Insanity, bad faith. We're back. No more good conversation. We're back to insanity, bad faith, immoral stances. Let's do this.
Just legal people who are here that came from another thing. It's a definitely emotional story. It makes me feel horrible for those people. I think there needs to be some better processes here. But it's
you don't give a shit.
They're still illegal, right? They're not supposed to be here. It's wrong by government standards, right? I think borders are very biblical. We see Nehemiah, the first thing he did for his country when he returned to Israel, he built a wall, right? He built a wall to keep those that wanted to harm them out. And, I'm not saying that everyone coming here wants to harm people, but I'm just saying that, like, biblically this reinforces it. And so, I feel like
I agree. I believe in borders.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in amnesty. Let's take the Vargases. We were talking about how they are sympathetic, hardworking small business owners in our community. They've been here for decades. There needs to be a path to citizenship. That is not the same thing as amnesty, because you're right.
Is there not already a path to citizenship?
No, and that's the problem. We've got millions of people who are living here in the shadows, and there is no path for them to actually come into compliance, which I want them to do. I'm a law and order Democrat. I believe that laws matter and there should be consequences for breaking the law.
Okay.
But here's what I will say, Tyler. We do recognize in our legal system that there are different.
I love how he's being genuine, being nice, listening, but not letting them run over him. Oh man, he's just hitting all the points, man. He's like, he's hitting all the green flags, bro. You'd be a 5 out of 5. What was that one dating app where you could rate people? 5 out of 5.
For punishments for different kinds of offenses. There are civil offenses like being here without documentation. There are criminal offenses like murdering, raping someone, and those things are treated differently. And so, in my mind, and again, I'm open to negotiating how the details work, but there needs to be, in broad strokes, a pathway to citizenship where they pay a fine for being here without documentation or crossing the border illegally. There should be some penalty for that. I'm not disagreeing. They should also have to pay back taxes. Again, immigrants, undocumented immigrants in particular, pay a lot of taxes and don't get benefits in return, but they may be missing some of those taxes because they weren't citizens. They need to pay those back taxes. And they need to go through the citizenship process. They got to take the test.
I 100% agree.
They got to learn about our government. They got to learn about our culture. All that.
I respect the carrot and stick approach. I probably disagree on some details. I would love to kind of hash those details out in a good conversation. Because, my podcast actually has good conversation. That's what we do over here. I would love to actually do that. But I understand the logic.
It's so important. If they do all those things and they've been here a long time and they've been contributing, I think they should be brought into compliance.
You just said they need to go through the immigration process, but then you just told me a minute ago that there is no immigration process, that they can't become citizens.
I'm talking about creating one. I'm talking about, that's what I mean when I say comprehensive immigration reform. It is building a process to where we can bring these millions of people living in the shadows into compliance, because there's not a process right now. And what you're asking is the process on the front end, how they got in here. And I hear so many people say they should come in the right way. We should create a process where there is a right way, where there's a line and it's a fast moving line. I mean, I think you would agree, Tyler, that someone shouldn't wait 20 years to hear back on their application. That's not a process at all. And that encourages people to come here the wrong way. So I'm saying this is a systemic problem.
You've been voted out. Please return
Great
to your
job,
seat.
Tyler. Yeah.
Make sure he gets his sneak off. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Hi,
Hi.
Shanice.
Yes.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I hear everything
Adult
you're
family
saying.
system.
I take disagreement with you saying like the Democrats nor the Republicans actually did a good job on border policy because as an immigration attorney, it started under the Obama administration and continued under the Biden administration where they were deporting people for having crimes of moral turpitude. You would get these notice of deportation notices in the mail. So it's like,
Oh. We got some spice. Okay, this might be interesting. Because this is someone. Okay, I don't want to put words in her mouth. I want to see where she goes with this. Okay.
Idea or this notion that there was just this open border plan and nothing was being done is like not true. And in terms of them not hiring people, even the Trump administration spent a lot of time creating different courts in El Paso and trying to force people to stay out of the border and make Mexico create different courts. And even the Trump administration today is still hiring judges, immigration judges, and fast tracking people out of the country. So I don't understand what exactly you're saying and especially when you say public safety, because if we look at what's happening, we have mass shootings that happen because of US citizens. Yes. And so this conflating of illegal immigration and public safety, I just think is like a misinformation. And as a politician, for me, I expect you to come up with.
Okay. I am so curious on how Talarico responds to this. So what is happening here? She's coming at it purely from the immigration attorney route, talking about what she's seen and what she knows. Because I disagree with some things he said too. Like I disagree with like how he proposed the Democrat things, and then he is saying things like, we need to hire more judges. She gave some leeway to the Trump administration. I wouldn't, but I respect that she did. And she's going into like, I don't think your facts really line up with the reality. Is her approach, and she's coming based off her experience. Okay, let's do it. So I'm so curious to see how James responds to this.
It's an argument that makes sense. Like you said, okay, we want to create pathways to citizenship. Well, how do you do that for people who are illegal? We had DAPA, we had DACA that created work visas, but that wasn't a pathway to citizenship. And that's not fair to the people who have H-1B visas. That's not fair to people who have K visas for their fiancés. So I'm just a little confused as to why we would fast track people who are here undocumented and ignore people who have been waiting in the visa process.
I'm so glad she said that because I didn't really like how he was conflating the people we're talking about, because there's a lot of people who are undocumented or just referred to people in the system that are not legal citizens that are getting thrown out of the system. Those are the people that I would focus on first as well, not the people who actually, which is a small percentage. Most of the people that Donald Trump is throwing out are people like DACA, temporary status, people who are here and just waiting for the process. People are waiting for the process. But I do think there is, okay, I'm here. I'm locked in. This is a genuine good conversation.
Line for a long time.
Well, first, thank you for your work on this topic. I want to just clarify a few things. I never said that we had an open border policy. I also don't think we should fast track anybody. What I'm trying to do is create a system that works. And when I speak about the failures of both political parties, including my own, it is the failure to pass comprehensive immigration reform. And that's a failure from George W. Bush to Barack Obama to Donald Trump the first time, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump the second time. What I'm saying is we should be going after the cartels, not our communities. We should be hunting down human traffickers, not moms and babies. We should be deporting gang members, not small business owners.
But we did that. So
and I think that was great to have a prioritization in terms of deportation, much better than what we have now.
But when you deported crime or people that were part of cartels, and we were doing that in like the 90s, the early 2000s, you happen to destabilize Central America, which caused an influx of immigration that we've never seen.
Yo, I low-key want to have her on my podcast because she's interesting. Now, this obviously most of the stuff that I agree or no. This one's I didn't. I always point out something that I learned that's new. This is something I did not know. Nearly 1 million Central American families came to the U.S. in the 1980s. Many of the youth joined gangs due to poverty. In the 1990s, the U.S. responded by deporting many of them, which led to the spread of gangs in Central America. Oh, that makes logical sense, like 100%. I would have to really think about the best way to approach that, though, because like the more American nationalist rhetoric would be, who gives a fuck about Central America? I'm not one of those people. I don't agree with that sentiment. But I really would have to think about the best way to approach these people. Honestly, I would have a full fucking breakdown, just these two people.
Before. So this idea of like, let's knock down doors and do come after the cartel, I agree with, but I'm confused. You also said we had to do something about people who had been here undocumented.
That's right.
My question is, what is your actual comprehensive policy look like for those people who have been waiting in line?
Yes.
Because we do have a pathway to citizenship through visas.
Yeah. Like I said, I want for those that are living in the shadows, I want them to have a pathway. I'm not saying they should jump in front of anybody else. What I'm saying is we have to bring them out of the shadows because it makes us all safer and it makes us more prosperous. But I would love, you tell me, this is a conversation. You're much more of an expert in immigration law than I am. So tell me what you think that policy should look like.
I think if you do what was
Oh my God, I love that he asked her the question. I love how a politician asked someone else their opinion. Oh my goodness, I can't believe, James, this is infallible. Jubilee, I've never seen this before. Productive dialogue, important conversation, factual information, back and forth. I'm about to explode.
Attempted to do for DACA and DAPA. If you've been here for 10 years or you were brought as a child and you were enrolled in school, you should have a pathway to citizenship. I do understand the fundamental policy of not breaking up families, but I don't understand how we allow their children to stay illegally. Like, do you let them stay, get pathways to citizenships, and then turn around and allow their family to do the family visas and make people return back to their original country? Because we have to remember, if we do that part of it, people go to jail when they go back. We have laws in place with different countries, especially in the Caribbean, where if you were in America illegally, you go to jail to come back. So when you go back, so there's no.
Oh my God, I didn't know that either. I am learning something so much from her. Hey, I need her on my podcast. I need her on my podcast. I want to talk with her and learn more about this. I've had our immigration attorney on my podcast already. I've had an immigration expert on my podcast. I've had multiple immigration people on my podcast. But I've never heard these takes. And to be fair, we're focused on debunking misinformation about immigration, all that stuff. This is a different approach that I just haven't heard. And I love diving into different perspectives on important issues.
To me, I don't think we should fast track undocumented workers. Or I think we should probably give people work visas, but I don't agree with you necessarily getting citizenship, because why would other people take the better route, which is not to be undocumented and actually apply for a visa?
So tell me, here's where I get hung up. Tell me what we do with kids. Because I was telling you how I, as a public school teacher, taught a lot of students who were undocumented. Many of them were saved by DACA. What do we do for those kids who were brought here through no fault of their own, without their consent? They now live here in America. This is the country they know. They know no other country.
What are we doing about their parents?
And you mentioned DAPA being an opportunity for parents. So
if we kept work visas for their parents, and allowed them to stay, and they find a pathway to citizenship, if you crossed the border before you were 6 and we can prove you were here, then I agree. But I think after that age, it gets too murky trying to, because people will falsify documents, they'll falsify pictures. And so it gets harder and harder to do.
This is the beauty of public policy, right? When we step out of the algorithms and the news networks, people can sit down, even if they may be coming at it from a different point of view, and be able to hammer out a solution that actually works. And I always try to listen to the experts, because as a politician, there's no way you can be an expert in everything. And so I think you and I, some of the solutions we just talked about, that's exactly what we need to be focused on if we're going to fix the system. I think secret police is not the answer. And we have got to find a better path forward on immigration.
All right, Klaus, you've been voted out. Please return to your
Great job.
seat.
It's nice to meet you.
I would be curious in exactly what her point is, though. I agree. Interesting things. Maybe let me rewind. Let me try to figure out exactly what she would propose again.
You mentioned DAPA being an opportunity to know kids who public school teacher taught a lot of students who were undocumented.
There's no, especially in the Caribbean, do the family breaking up golden school
In immigration law than I am. So tell me what you think that policy should look like.
I think if you do what was attempted to do for DACA and DAPA, if you've been here for 10 years or you were brought as a child and you were enrolled in school, you should have a pathway to citizenship. I do understand the fundamental policy of not breaking up families, but I don't understand how we allow their children to stay illegally. Like, do you let them stay, get pathways to citizenships, and then turn around and allow their family to do the family visas and make people return back to their original country? Because we have to remember, if we do that part of it, people go to jail when they go back. We have like laws in place with different countries, especially in the Caribbean, where if you were in America illegally, you go to jail to come back. So when you go back, so there's no, to me, I don't think we should fast track undocumented workers. Or I think we should probably give people work visas, but I don't agree with you necessarily getting citizenship, because why would other people take the better route, which is not to be undocumented?
So I understand her criticisms, and she's saying that if we fast track undocumented, I think if you were going to fast track undocumented now, based off the current system, it's gonna put everybody in the system or put everybody in place, and then you make it extremely strict afterwards. I think that probably would be the best way to answer your question, saying like, we're not doing this again, but based off the current circumstance, we'll consider this a big issue and make this kind of, well, he said he's not with amnesty, so you would have to make that an amnesty thing. I would have to figure how I would think about that one. Give out more work visas. That's what the immigration attorney who came on my podcast said. He said that he would give out way more work visas for immigrants. And I think she probably agrees. Give out more work visas for immigrants. I think that is her proposal.
And actually apply for a visa.
So tell me, here's where I get hung up. Tell me what we do with kids. Because I was telling you how I, as a public school teacher, taught a lot of students who were undocumented. Many of them were saved by DACA. What do we do for those kids who were brought here through no fault of their own, without their...
Give more visas. Let me try to, I need to do a research on the dime to understand visas. That's probably going to be my next research of the dime topic, to learn more about how visas work. Let me write this in my notes. Work visas for immigrants. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do next. Okay. All right. I like that conversation. Let's go to this.
Your vote matters in 2026. Hi, what's your name?
Michaela.
Michaela.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Since this is a new claim, let me just kind of tell you what I'm thinking, and then I would love to open this up.
Of course.
When I first ran for office, I was a 28-year-old public school teacher, and I was running in a Republican district as a Democrat. And so I had to knock on literally every door in order to get elected. And I was trying to talk to my fellow young people. I'm a millennial. I was also trying to talk to Gen Z. And I kept hearing this refrain, I'm not interested in politics. And at some point, I was just honest with them. I said, you may not be interested in politics.
I mean, I think he probably does a good job. I don't need to hear this take. Is there anything else? The biggest divide in our politics
is that the biggest divide in our politics is not left versus right. It's top versus bottom.
I pretty much just agree to the your vote matters thing. And this is probably just going to be him convincing people to vote and talk about the political landscape and how you can make change. I pretty much could predict all the talking points there. So that's why I'm not watching that port. I am interested in this one.
Hi, what's your name?
Krista.
Krista. Spending 8 years in the middle of this broken political system, I've come to realize that the biggest divide is between the billionaires who run this political system, who run this economy.
I agree, but like the right right now are just a bunch of are literally working hand in hand with the billionaires. Generally, I agree, but MAGA is just billionaire part. This is the billionaire party now. So
economy who increasingly run this whole country versus the rest of us, whether we're Democrats or Republicans, progressives or conservatives. And I've seen how those billionaires pit us against each other with their algorithms, with their cable news networks. They're trying to divide us by party, by race, by gender, by religion. So we don't notice that they're picking our pockets. They're closing our schools and gutting our healthcare, raising taxes on all of us while they cut taxes for themselves. So what I'm trying to do is bring us all together across all these divisions so we can take power away from them and bring it back into our communities.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from on that. And I agree that lobbying does play a big role in like some of our representatives. You know, the more funding they get, the more they have to advertise for, you know, their position that they want. But where I disagree on that is I believe that how can I say this? I believe that economics, like the top versus the bottom, accounts for economic inequity. But I believe ideology is where the polarization comes in. So you're a man of faith, correct?
Yeah.
So
Try to be.
you are definitely. So wouldn't you say that your faith drives who you are as a person and your beliefs?
Absolutely. And I agree that political polarization is a problem. What I'm trying to get us to realize is how these systems that we're in, a broken political system, a broken media system, a broken social media system, how that exacerbates ideological differences. Of course, we're all very different people. We're going to have different opinions, but these algorithms, these cable news networks, they fan the flames of those disagreements. And that's why we have such polarized politics, in my opinion.
So you think it's like an echo chamber, like, is that what you're stating?
I think that these billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Rupert Murdoch, the people who increasingly own traditional media and new social media, they have a vested interest in all of us being divided. Because if we recognize that we are far more alike than we are different, if we realize that we have far more in common, we're going to take power back from them and we're going to bring it back into our communities.
So where I would disagree on that is there's so many economic elites. So let's just give an example. The owners of Ben and Jerry, they spend so much time on, climate change, trying to draw that back. They spend a lot of time on putting their time into charity. Let's just say putting it towards charity for those who are less fortunate. But we have the polar opposite, right? Let's just say the owner of Chick-fil-A, they spend a lot of their time donating to more conservative. So I would say that it's not just the elite. I believe it goes back to their ideology, because we see people who are multimillionaires and they're still donating to the left. They're still donating to the right. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. What I'm trying to propose is that we limit the influence of those very, very wealthy people, whether they're on the left or the right, in our political system. They can have their own opinions. There's nothing more American than having your own opinions. They shouldn't have an outsized influence on our political system. They shouldn't be able to buy politicians by the dozen. I'll just give you one example. Here in Texas, there are 2 billionaires in West Texas, Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks. They basically run our state government. I bet most Texans don't even know their names, but every member of the state Senate has taken their money. A majority of the members of the state House have taken their money. And for some of these legislators, a majority of their entire campaign contributions come from just these 2 billionaires. Okay. And they use that influence, they use their wealth to shift our state into a far right direction. The most extreme abortion ban in the country, the most insane gun laws in the country. All of that is because these 2 billionaires have remade our state government in their own image. I'm trying to stop them from doing that. They can have their own opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to stop that. I'm trying to prevent the top 1%, these billionaire mega donors, from being able to dictate public policy in this state and in this country.
So when we have the issue of, let's just say, another multimillionaire in Texas is using it for policies that you agree with, are you going to do that on both sides, or are you going to just do it on a certain side? How are you going to combat that?
I'm going to limit the influence of billionaires on both sides of the aisle, whether it's a Democratic billionaire or a Republican billionaire. I think we've got to ban things like super PACs. I think we've got to even further limit campaign contributions. I think we've got to prevent lawmakers from being able to engage in insider trading and buying and selling these stocks. I think we need just basic ethics reform, basic transparency, basic accountability. Because when our political system works with the uber wealthy, it doesn't work with the rest of us. In fact,
billionaires are the problem. I'm curious what the biggest thing that I just heard from this debate you were just talking about is basically billionaires are the problem. I'm curious what why do you think that they are causing the problems?
So I actually think the system is the problem. The system allows for those billionaires to have an outsized influence in our political conversation, in our economy, and it crowds out the rest of us, those who are working class and middle class Texans. And I want to try to right that imbalance. I think what you've seen in this country for the last 50 years is an economy that used to work for most people transform into one that only works for the uber wealthy. The richest 1% in this country now owns more wealth than the entire middle class. 3 dudes, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, now own more wealth than 165 million Americans combined. And they're using that wealth to corrupt our political system. These are not the rich people of old. They're not buying yachts and jets only. They're now buying power. I mean, think about all the debates in our politics. Our schools are being defunded so those billionaires can get another tax break. Our healthcare premiums are about to go up because those billionaires want another tax break. And then our Social Security, our Medicare benefits are constantly under threat because those billionaires want yet another tax break. So I'm advocating that we limit their power and we empower working Texans to be able to fulfill their own God-given potential.
Interesting. How do you...
I'm not a populist, but I will say I am very much pro decreasing the wealth inequality gap. And I agree with a lot of sentiment that he's talking about for sure. And I do think James actually is good faith and he actually cares about this stuff compared to like Donald Trump, who lied about it and now he's becoming richer. So I'm curious to see what how this manifests. Let's see what this kid asks. I think he's about to ask him, how do you plan to do that?
How do you propose that we go about doing that? Because I mean, the system's been here for a long time, and I think the more important question is specifically what system? Is it the Texas system? Is it the federal system? Is it there's a lot of systems. The school system, the tax system. So what specifically are you talking about?
All the above. So you said that we've had it for a long time. It has been a long time. It's been about 50 years. But I just want to remind you and those watching that we did have an economic system in this country that worked for the middle class. In the 1950s, the 1960s, the richest Americans paid a top marginal tax rate of 90%. Now, I don't know if we need a tax rate that high for rich folks, but it should certainly be higher than what it is now. It's about 37% now. And so I want billionaires to pay their fair share. I don't think that George Soros should pay less as a percentage of his income in taxes than his secretary. And that's what we have now. Again, billionaires on the left, billionaires on the right. They are getting away scot-free. They are leeching the lifeblood out of this country, out of all the systems that you just mentioned. I think the only way we're going to change that is that people like you, people around the circle, people around the state, decide to come together across all of these divides, recognize that we have a lot more in common than billionaires want us to think, and take power back for our communities.
Interesting. So I did a little research about this, and the top 5% of earners in America make about $260,000 a year. They make up for about 60% of the total federal income tax. So that's not billionaires, right?
Yeah.
So that's people who are getting by. They're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But my question is, how can you affect billionaires and also still help not hurt those who are not billionaires, but maybe they have a couple million and they're also providing jobs, because we have a lot of smaller businesses that are within the 5 million.
Totally
range.
agree. We don't want to hurt small businesses. We don't want to even hurt people who are upper middle class. What we want to do is go after that top 1%, actually the top 1% of that 1%, those billionaires who run this economy and run this country. Let's just take an example. The big ugly bill that passed a few months ago in Washington, it gave $3 trillion in tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans. Just guess what the average billionaire is going to get in terms of tax cuts from that bill.
I'm not sure.
$110,000. Again, our money, our tax dollars.
This guy is just asking questions. I'm sorry for hating on you, my boy. I apologize when I'm in the wrong. I appreciate it.
Went to those billionaires who don't need it. Guess what we're going to get? Regular people, what we're going to get from that bill?
Not sure.
A little over $1,000.
Okay. Yeah.
To me, that feels wildly unfair. And it prevents all of us from being able to start that new business, from being able to grow the economy. It keeps us from being able to support our families and make sure that our kids are successful in school and in college and in the workforce. That is how this rigged system prevents us from achieving our potential as a country.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by majority. Please return to
Great job,
your seat.
Tavi.
I respect the questions, man.
Hi.
I'm waiting
Hi.
to see if
How are
Tim
you,
speaks
Tess?
for
Nice to
Billy.
meet you, James. So I'm going to be straightforward, honest with you.
Yeah, please.
I agree with a lot of your stance.
Sure.
I am also, my family, our income household, we are in that top 3%, not one.
Yeah.
That being said, do I wish
Oh, she makes bread. Okay. Big baller out here. Teach me your ways.
sure I'm not the only one out there.
Yeah.
Me and my family, we're not opposed to being the people who say, you tax us more.
Yeah.
We're okay with that, because everybody around me, everybody I know, they're going, paycheck to paycheck, single parent. There's not many people we know that are as blessed as us.
Yeah.
That said, is it top to bottom? That's the problem. Or is it left to right? Because when you look at what's going on, I do think that there is a portion of greed that is effective in the billionaires' minds or the top 1%. But I think there's a lot of left and right when it comes into it, especially when you look at the industry that it plays into, whether it's oil or housing or whatnot. So I disagree that it's not entirely top bottom. I think it's a good portion of it plays into left and right.
So here's what I want to point out. This political discourse in our country, it is controlled by those billionaires increasingly. These for-profit social media platforms, these predatory algorithms, they elevate the most extreme voices on all sides to provoke our outrage.
Right.
Because
He is correct about a lot of that. Them, the 1% does that, as well as the our foreign adversaries. They do that as well. I don't think people realize how many bots and hackers and people from other countries are really loving that America's super divided right now.
that gets more clicks.
Yes.
And that makes them more money. It's a rage economy.
Right.
Anger sells, fear sells, hate sells. These platforms designed by those billionaires, these platforms appeal to our worst demons instead of our better angels. These billionaires are engineering our emotions so they can profit off of our pain. They are selling us conflict and calling it community. These platforms don't incentivize us doing what we're doing here, which is listening to each other and finding common ground. These platforms want us at each other's throats because those billionaires benefit. Whether you're in the top 3% or whether you're in the bottom 3%, we have a lot more in common with each other than we do with those billionaires.
Absolutely.
And so they want us focused on how we're different. There's
I pretty much got the point. Hey, James cooking. Let's see what let's see what the comments said. I've concluded that undecided voter means uninformed voter, and they didn't learn anything from this debate. Well, I think I think you guys are being a little bad faith. I think they did a pretty good job, and for the most part, I'm not mad at it. Good job. Good job.